Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. Have you ever walked into a new workplace and just immediately sensed a vibe you couldn't quite put your finger on? Well, today we're going to act as workplace detectives. We are going to decode the invisible architecture. We're talking about those hidden, unspoken forces that are secretly pulling the strings on our daily work lives, our team dynamics, and literally every decision we make.
So let's start with a really simple question to get us grounded here. What actually dictates the unspoken rules of your office? Just think about it for a second. What tells you whether it's okay to wear jeans on a Tuesday? What's the signal that tells you it's perfectly fine to log off right at 6 p.m.? Or, on the flip side, that you should absolutely never question your boss in a meeting? I'll give you a hint. It almost never comes from the official employee handbook.
To figure out where these mysterious signals actually come from, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to define this invisible architecture, unpack organizational culture, check the workplace weather, explore the mosaic of diversity, and finally, learn how to navigate cross-cultural global teams.
Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, the invisible architecture, defining the unseen. Let's establish exactly what we're talking about when we refer to these unseen forces in an organization. What is this architecture really?
Well, the foundation of it all is organizational culture. And look, culture isn't something you're going to find neatly typed up in an HR policy. It's a felt experience. It's that shared set of values and beliefs that you pick up on in meetings, in the tone of an email, during lunch breaks, and honestly, even in the awkward silences between colleagues. It's the unspoken code. It's the rhythm pulsating beneath the official rules, holding everyone's behavior in place.
Moving right along to Section 2, unpacking organizational culture, going deeper. To truly see how this culture operates, we need to grab our magnifying glass and dig past the surface level. And we're going to use Edgar Schein's famous model to do it.
Schein basically breaks culture down into three distinct layers. The outermost layer is what we call artifacts. These are the things you can plainly see: the dress codes, the open plan layouts, weekly rituals, and those catchy corporate slogans plastered on the lobby wall. Picture a new intern noticing a cheerful wall covered in anonymous sticky note shoutouts. That's a highly visible artifact. But it's incredibly telling that no one has ever posted a piece of constructive criticism there. The artifact itself is totally visible, but the rule governing how it's used is completely hidden.
Stepping one level deeper, we hit the espoused values. These are the stated public commitments a company makes. Think of a rapidly expanding startup proudly claiming in its mission statement that it champions relentless innovation and agility. These are the shiny standards the organization claims to uphold to the public and its staff. But as we all know too well, what a company says and what a company actually does aren't always in alignment.
And that brings us to the real truth, hidden in the deepest layer, underlying assumptions. These are the totally unconscious beliefs that actually shape true behavior. Imagine that same intern from earlier excitedly pitching a brand new idea in a team meeting, only to be immediately shut down with a crisp, "Yeah, we just don't do things that way here." Boom. That singular moment reveals a culture that secretly fears change and fiercely protects the status quo, completely contradicting all that talk about innovation. This deepest layer is where the culture truly lives and breathes.
Now, these deep assumptions actually create four main types of organizational culture. Think about how a family bakery operates as a power culture. Decisions are lightning fast and centralized around the owner, though they can be a bit arbitrary. Compare that to a role culture, like a college administrative wing, which is super stable and protocol-driven, but fiercely resists any kind of change. Then you've got a task culture, maybe an ad agency, which is highly creative but needs massive coordination because teams are constantly shifting around. And finally, a person culture, like a law firm, which respects immense autonomy but definitely runs the risk of total fragmentation. Every single one has its strengths, and every single one has its shadows.
All right, let's shift gears into Section 3, the workplace weather. Culture versus climate. Because culture isn't the only unseen force calling the shots. We absolutely have to talk about climate too.
Here is the crucial distinction you need to understand. If organizational culture is the deep, stubborn soil of a company, slow to change and acting as the very soul of the business, then climate is the immediate weather. Climate is the breath of the organization. It shifts rapidly, and it's the direct reason why you feel a certain way the second you walk into the building on a random Monday morning.
This day-to-day lived experience is shaped heavily by everyday interactions. We're talking leadership style, communication, recognition, and a sense of fairness. An entire team can feel incredibly energized simply because their manager consistently takes the time to praise small wins.
On the flip side, a company might constantly brag about its warm, family-like culture, but if communication suddenly breaks down, the climate turns instantly toxic and employees feel totally invisible. Essentially, climate is the manager's mirror.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, the mosaic of diversity, beyond representation. Now that we've got a grip on the environment, the soil and the weather, let's talk about the people actually working in it. Let's explore the complex mosaic of workforce diversity.
When we hear the word diversity, it's so easy to just stop at demographics, right? Gender, age, ethnicity. But true diversity goes way, way beyond that. It vitally includes cognitive diversity, the literal differences in how our brains process information, and experiential diversity, which is the rich variance in what people have actually lived through. Bringing all these vastly different perspectives together is a massive driver for creativity. But we have to be real here. It can also introduce genuine communication barriers and bring our unconscious biases right to the surface.
And that brings us to a fundamental truth. Diversity is really just representation. It's getting an invitation to be in the room. But inclusion? Inclusion is highly intentional. Inclusion is making sure everyone in that room actually feels like they belong and that their voice matters. It looks like actionable policies, offering flexible hours for caregivers, building real mentorship programs, and fiercely protecting safe spaces where people can speak up without constantly looking over their shoulder.
Finally, we've arrived at Section 5, navigating cross-cultural teams going global. We've looked at the standard office level, but how does this invisible architecture hold up on a massive cross-cultural global scale?
When a business expands internationally, this invisible architecture gets complicated fast. Take a startup expanding into Thailand, for example. Suddenly, management is forced to navigate Hofstede's cultural dimensions. They might realize that because of a higher power distance, team meetings are suddenly way more formal than back home. Feedback is given much more indirectly. And honestly, even casual humor requires emotional translation to actually land correctly without offending anyone.
Navigating this kind of global environment takes serious cross-cultural sensitivity. The best managers follow 4 vital steps here: ask, observe, learn, and adapt. They don't just blindly assume. They actively recognize that what feels warm and respectful in one culture could feel completely icy or even totally offensive in another. They have to learn how to read the context and, most importantly, read the silences.
So, bringing it all together, it boils down to this one profound observation. Culture and climate are invisible, but they shape everything. These forces, from the unspoken rules about wearing jeans right down to the deepest global behavioral patterns, they might be completely unseen, but they are the literal architecture dictating every single success, failure, and decision in a business. I'm going to leave you with a final provocative thought to help you evaluate your own career right now. Take a hard look at your own invisible architecture. What kind of culture do you honestly thrive in? And maybe more importantly, what kind of weather are you bringing to work? How are you personally contributing to the climate and the inclusion of your team? Think about that the next time you walk through those office doors. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking those deep questions.